Welcome to the open mic.
What if you spent your entire life successfully raising incredibly high-achieving children?
And really putting everything into it.
Right, pouring every ounce of your energy, your time, your finances into ensuring their success, only to wake up one day and realize that in doing all of that, you accidentally sacrificed the one thing you actually wanted from them.
It is a terrifying thought, honestly.
It really is. So we are jumping right into it today. We are doing a deep dive into a remarkably candid and honestly quite brave anonymous essay.
Very brave.
Yeah, it was written by a 71-year-old mother for Bolde.com, and the title is just a gut punch.
That title really says it all, doesn't it?
It does. And we're skipping the usual pleasantries today because, well, the premise of this piece just hits you right out of the gate.
Yeah, it doesn't hold back.
Not at all. It forces you to look at the unintended consequences of pushing for excellence and the incredibly subtle ways we teach the people in our lives how to communicate with us.
Which we do all the time, completely subconsciously.
Exactly. And it also highlights the profound courage it takes to try and rewrite your family's entire language when you are already, in the twilight of your life.
It really is a stunning piece of self-reflection because, on the surface, you might read that title and assume this is going to be
like a standard critique of tiger parenting.
Right, or like a sociological look at hyper-competitive childhoods. But it goes so much deeper than that.
Oh, way deeper.
What we're really looking at here is an exploration of the currency of attention.
The currency of attention. I like that phrase.
Yeah, because every time we interact with someone, we are establishing economies in our relationships.
Like a transaction.
Exactly. And that applies to our children, absolutely. But also, our partners, our friends, our colleagues. We establish rules of engagement.
Without ever writing them down.
Exactly. Usually without ever speaking them aloud. And this mother's realization of the specific rules she wrote for her own family, well, it's heartbreaking.
It really is.
But it serves as a incredibly powerful mirror for anyone trying to understand why their own relationships feel the way they do.
Yeah, and I think to fully grasp the weight of her realization, we really have to look at the scoreboard she built.
We do, because she was keeping score.
She was. And by the metrics most of society uses to judge successful parenting, especially the metrics that were dominant in the 80s and 90s when she was raising these kids.
Oh, she won.
She unequivocally succeeded. She won the game. She tells us her son was a college swimmer.
Which is huge.
Right. Anyone who has been near competitive swimming knows that it isn't just like an extracurricular activity. It's a totalizing lifestyle.
It dictates everything. Meals, sleep, weekends.
Everything. She talks about him being up at 5 a.m. for most of his childhood, and she mentions that his medals are still just sitting in a box in her basement.
Wow.
Yeah. And then her older daughter graduated at the top of her class from UC Berkeley.
Berkeley. That is incredibly competitive.
Top of her class. And she was in the National Latin Honor Society.
Of course she was.
Right. And then her youngest daughter made partner at a law firm before she even turned 35.
Those are monumental achievements.
They really are.
And they don't happen by accident. They represent decades of immense discipline, intense focus, significant financial investment.
Oh, the money alone.
Right. And a relentless driving force from the parents. She describes her children as accomplished, respected, capable people.
Which is what every parent says they want.
Exactly. They are exactly what she pushed them to become. She set a goal, she executed the strategy, and the outcome was precisely what she engineered. She didn't fail in her objective.
Right. The outcome matches the blueprint perfectly.
Flawlessly.
But then she delivers the absolute gut punch of the essay.
Yeah, here it is.
After laying out this incredible glowing roster of success, she admits that she would trade a good portion of it for a pointless phone call on a Tuesday afternoon.
Just a completely random call.
Yeah, just a call to tell her, the dog did something idiotic. Or that her daughter can't decide what to make for dinner. A call about absolutely nothing of consequence.
The mundane stuff.
Exactly. And then she admits the hardest truth of all, those calls almost never come.
Wow.
She sits in her house, and the phone is just silent. And she realizes the reason the phone doesn't ring is her.
That is just a devastating level of self-awareness.
It really is. When I was reading this, I kept thinking about the engineering involved in building a high-performance Formula One race car.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. You spend decades optimizing every single valve. You strip out every ounce of excess weight. You tune the aerodynamics perfectly.
You build a machine for one specific purpose.
Exactly. You build a machine that can do 200 miles an hour on a track without vibrating apart. But then, you reach your golden years and you realize what you actually wanted all along was a comfortable sedan to take a slow Sunday drive through the countryside.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy.
Right. But a Formula One car doesn't have air conditioning.
It doesn't have a radio.
It doesn't even have a passenger seat.
No, it doesn't.
It is rigid, it is incredibly loud, and it only knows how to do one thing, which is race. It feels like she optimized her family for the track, but now she wants to drive them on a Sunday.
What's fascinating here is the rigidity of that optimization. That's the core issue. In our culture, we tend to conflate objective success with relational warmth.
We think they go hand in hand.
Exactly. We assume that if we secure the objective successes, if the kids get into Berkeley, if they secure the partnership at the firm, then a relational harmony, closeness, and familial warmth will naturally follow.
Like it's just a byproduct of that success.
Yes. We treat connection like a bonus prize you get for winning the race. But they are entirely different ecosystems.
Oh, completely different.
The mother optimized for capability and resilience, and the hidden tax attached to that specific type of optimization is isolation.
A hidden tax. Wow.
Yeah. She finds herself completely isolated from the mundane, everyday, beautifully boring lives of the people she loves most. She optimized for the podium, but human connection doesn't happen on the podium.
Where does it happen?
It happens in the messy, unstructured spaces in between the events.
That makes so much sense. And she actually goes back into her past to examine how this isolation was built. And she makes a really vital distinction about the kind of parent she was.
Yeah, this part was striking.
Because she explicitly says she was not a cold parent.
Right.
She wasn't distant. She wasn't the stereotypical absentee parent who just paid for the tutors and sent checks from a distance while they were off on business trips.
She was very present.
Hyper present. She was in the front row. She was at every single swim meet, every piano recital, every parent-teacher night. She was totally in their lives. But she notes she was hard.
That distinction between cold and hard is critical.
Yeah, unpack that for us.
Well, cold implies a lack of love, right? A lack of interest or emotional neglect.
Just not caring.
Exactly. Hard, in the context she uses it, implies an intense, almost overwhelming focus. It is the friction of high expectations applied constantly, without any relief.
Like a pressure cooker.
Yes. She was deeply invested, but the nature of her investment was entirely focused on optimization and continuous improvement.
And the examples she gives, they make you wince because of how familiar they sound.
Oh, they are very relatable.
Like, if her son swam a personal best, meaning he had already achieved something he had never done before, the very first thing out of her mouth was asking how he might shave off another second.
Not great job, but what's next?
Exactly. And if her daughter brought home a 95 on a test, she would ask gently, what happened to the other 5 points?
Just a gentle critique, but still a critique.
Right. She made them redo sloppy work. She refused to let them quit things they wanted to quit because she believed quitting was a habit that had to be starved out early.
Which is a very common parenting philosophy.
Very common. But there is one specific anecdote in the text that literally stops you in your tracks.
The swimming pool story.
The swimming pool story. She talks about her son, he was maybe 12 years old at the time, hauling himself out of the pool after taking second place at a regional meet.
Second at regionals. That's huge for a 12-year-old.
Huge. And he is grinning. He is actively searching the stands specifically for her face.
Oh, this breaks my heart.
And the very first thing she did before she hugged him, before she said congratulations, was ask what had gone wrong on his final turn.
Wow.
And she writes, I watched the grin flatten.
Just brutal. Think about the neurobiology of a 12-year-old in that exact moment.
Yeah, what is happening in his brain?
Well, he has just exerted immense physical effort. He has achieved something difficult in a highly competitive environment. His brain is flooded with dopamine and endorphins.
He's on top of the world.
Right. And biologically, we are hardwired as children to seek out our primary caregivers to mirror and validate that joy.
To share it.
Yes, it's an evolutionary mechanism for social bonding. He searches for her face to close the circuit of his happiness. He is offering her his joy.
Like a gift.
Exactly. And instead of meeting him with a mirror of that joy, she meets him with a structural critique.
Wait, go back to that physical mechanism for a second. What actually happens in a kid's brain when a critique intercepts that kind of dopamine rush, because it feels like more than just disappointment. It feels like it fundamentally alters the experience of the memory itself.
It absolutely alters the memory. When a child achieves a goal, the dopamine surge creates a feeling of reward, which is supposed to reinforce the behavior.
Makes them want to do it again.
Right. And they look to the parent for the social reinforcement of that reward. When the parent responds with a critique instead, the child's brain registers a mild threat.
A threat? Really?
Yes. The amygdala, which processes emotional responses and fear, detects that the parent is dissatisfied. This triggers a minor stress response, a release of cortisol.
Oh, wow.
So the dopamine reward is abruptly overridden by a cortisol spike. The child learns that the moment of achievement is actually a moment of vulnerability.
Because they're being evaluated.
Exactly. Instead of internalizing the success, they internalize the anxiety of the parent. The memory of the swim meet isn't encoded as, I won second place and felt great. It is encoded as, I won second place, but my turn was flawed and my mother was concerned.
That is heavy. And she admits she told herself she was helping him get better, and she truly believed it.
Parents usually do.
Right. She didn't do this out of cruelty. She explicitly says, I thought that was love. She was terrified of raising children who would drift, who would settle, who would look back at age 40 and wonder why no one had ever pushed them to try.
That fear of them settling is so powerful.
It is. So she made them try, constantly. But I want to challenge this a bit, though. Was she entirely wrong to push them?
That's a fair question.
I mean, kids don't just naturally gravitate toward discipline. If you let a 12-year-old dictate their own schedule, they might just play video games all day and never learn how to work through frustration.
Certainly.
Greatness, or even just basic competence in a highly competitive world, rarely happens in a vacuum. You have to push. So how do you balance the need to demand excellence with the need to protect the joy of the moment? Are they just mutually exclusive?
They are mutually exclusive, but achieving both requires an incredibly high degree of emotional intelligence and, crucially, a mastery of sequencing.
Sequencing?
Yes. The mother's failure wasn't necessarily in having high standards. Her failure was in her sequencing. By offering the critique before the hug, she inverted the necessary emotional order.
Oh, I see.
A child, or any human being for that matter, needs to feel entirely secure in their baseline worth before they can constructively process criticism.
They need to feel safe first.
Right. In attachment theory, we talk about the concept of a secure base. A child explores the world, takes risks, and faces challenges knowing they have a secure base to return to.
And the parent is that base.
Exactly. If the secure base itself is a source of continuous evaluation, the child never gets to rest. The psychological gap between her intent and her impact was massive.
Because her intent was good.
Her intent was, I love you so much that I want to prepare you for a harsh world. But her impact was, my love for you is contingent on your flawless performance.
That makes a lot of sense. The intent gets totally lost in the delivery. She thought she was armoring them against the world.
Precisely. But children don't process parental anxiety as armor. They process it as rejection.
Wow.
When a parent is constantly anxious about a child's performance, the child interprets that as the parent believing they are fundamentally inadequate. They process it as a signal that good enough literally does not exist.
Which is exhausting.
It is. The mother thought she was teaching them how to survive the track, to use your Formula One analogy, but she was actually teaching them that they were only valuable when they were racing.
That sequencing point, the hug, then the critique, it seems so obvious in hindsight, but in the heat of the moment, parental anxiety just takes over.
It overrides everything.
And because she inverted that sequence so consistently, she created an entirely new, unspoken economy within her home. Let's look at how this played out away from the pool, specifically at the dinner table.
The dinner table dynamic is fascinating.
Yeah, she describes their family dinners as a roundup of the day's wins.
Like a corporate board meeting.
Literally. The conversation was driven by questions like, who got picked first? Who got the highest mark? Who beat their old time?
Constant metrics.
And when they had a win to report, she lit up. She leaned in, she asked questions, she glowed about it for days.
Positive reinforcement.
Huge positive reinforcement. But when they just had a flat, ordinary day with nothing to show for it, she didn't get mad, she didn't yell or punish them, she just didn't have much to say.
She just disengaged.
Yeah, the conversation would just thin out and die.
The absence of anger is what makes this dynamic so insidious and so difficult to recognize while it's actually happening.
Because there's no drama to point to.
Exactly. If she had been screaming at them for being average, It would be an obvious trauma. It would be a recognizable form of emotional abuse, and the children might have eventually rebelled against it or sought outside help.
Right, they would have known something was wrong.
But the withdrawal of warmth, the fading of attention, that is much harder for a child to fight against. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does a child's need for parental engagement.
They need that attention to survive.
Yes. She notes that her children read that perfectly.
Yeah.
Children are the most astute observers of human behavior on the planet when it comes to their primary caregivers.
Oh, don't they see everything?
Their emotional survival depends on reading the adults in the room. They study their parents' micro-expressions, their tone of voice, their body language. They knew exactly what caused their mother's eyes to light up and what caused her to glaze over.
I keep picturing this like a social media algorithm.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. If you think about the kids as content creators, the mother's attention is the algorithm that decides what goes viral. So the kids try posting different kinds of content to see what works. They bring some ordinary life content to the table. Maybe they saw a weird bug, or they had a mildly annoying interaction with a teacher, or they just feel tired.
Just normal kid stuff.
Normal stuff. And the algorithm gives it zero engagement. The conversation thins out, the post dies, but then they post achievement content, an A on a math test, a personal best in the pool.
And boom.
Instantly, the algorithm feeds it, pushes it, rewards it with massive dopamine, and lights up the whole room. So what happens?
They adapt.
Exactly. The content creators immediately stop producing the stuff that doesn't get engagement. They pivot their entire production strategy to exclusively create the content that goes viral.
That is incredibly accurate.
The mother writes, "Accomplishment was the currency that bought my full attention, and a plain Tuesday bought very little."
It's a perfect framework for understanding behavioral conditioning.
Yeah.
In behavioral psychology, specifically operant conditioning, this is exactly how behavior is shaped.
Operant conditioning, right.
B.F. Skinner demonstrated that behavior which is reinforced tends to be repeated, and behavior which is not reinforced tends to die out.
And that's called extinction, right?
Yes.
Right.
It's a process called extinction. The children weren't just learning how to be successful students or athletes. They were learning the fundamental mechanics of how to be loved by this specific woman.
Which is tragic.
The deepest tragedy is that this was taught entirely implicitly. As she says, it was learned without a word being said out loud.
Nobody handed them a rule book.
No, they just realized that her active, glowing affection was a transactional commodity. They brought their achievements to her, as she says, like gifts, because they saw how much she loved unwrapping them.
Wow. They were managing her emotions.
They were performing a service to make her happy at the expense of sharing their authentic, unedited selves.
It's terrifying to think about how easily we can condition the people around us without even opening our mouths.
Oh, we do it every single day.
And that kind of conditioning, that deep subconscious programming, it doesn't just evaporate when a kid turns 18 and moves out of the house.
No, it hardwires into adulthood.
Decades pass. These kids are out of the house. They're in their 40s and 50s now. They have their own children, their own mortgages, their own complex lives. But the programming is completely intact.
It doesn't fade.
Not at all. The mother realizes that when they call her now, they still lead with the win. It's a promotion at work. It's her grandchild making the varsity team. It's a marathon they finished.
Always a metric.
Always. And for years, she admits, she comforted herself with a myth. She told herself, they're busy. They have careers. They have children, full lives. Who has time to call for no reason?
It is so profoundly human to cling to that comforting myth.
Because the alternative hurts too much.
Exactly. They're just busy. Is this shield parents use to protect their egos from the pain of disconnection. It absolves the parent of responsibility.
It makes it society's fault.
Yes. It reframes the silence not as a flaw in the foundation of the relationship, but as an inevitable, blameless byproduct of modern adult life. Everyone is busy, so the silence is natural.
Right.
But the truth she faces in her late 60s requires immense ego strength to admit. She strips away that defense mechanism and sits with the reality that they never built a shared vocabulary for a regular day.
I really want to dig into that idea of a shared vocabulary because they clearly talk to each other, they communicate, but she recognizes that the language they use is incredibly limited in its scope.
Exactly. Think about what a language actually is. It's a mutual agreement on a shared set of symbols used to convey meaning and build understanding.
Okay.
In this family, they have a highly complex, fluent language for accomplishment. They have all the vocabulary needed to talk about metrics, goals, promotions, strategies, and overcoming obstacles.
They're fluent in success.
Completely fluent. But when there is just life, when there is a lingering, vague worry or a funny encounter with a cashier at the grocery store, or just the heavy fatigue of a Wednesday, they literally lack the symbols to discuss it with her.
They don't have the words.
They have never practiced talking to her about those things, so it feels unnatural to try. The mother says there's nothing in our shared vocabulary to reach for, so no one calls.
Man.
They don't call because they don't know how to speak to her without presenting a completed project.
Just pause and think about the sheer terror of that self-awareness.
It's immense.
To sit alone in your quiet house at 71 years old and look at the silence. And instead of blaming society, instead of blaming your kids for being ungrateful, you say out loud, I built this.
Taking total ownership.
She goes out of her way to say the kids did nothing wrong. They're warm, attentive, devoted children. They're just speaking the language she handed them. The silence isn't coldness. It is, in her words, the shape of what I taught.
That is such a powerful phrase.
How does someone even process that level of accountability without collapsing into total despair? It seems like it'd be so much easier to just stay angry at the kids.
Oh, it would be infinitely easier to stay angry or to play the victim. Processing that kind of grief requires a radical acceptance of your own flaws.
A really painful acceptance.
Yes. It highlights how deeply ingrained family communication systems are. They were incredibly robust structures. Long after the initial environment that created the system is gone, the childhood dinner table is gone, the swimming pool is in the past, the system persists.
The ghost of the dinner table.
Exactly. Kids haven't lived under her roof for 30 years. Yet, the invisible rules established at that dinner table still dictate whether or not they pick up the phone on a Tuesday afternoon.
That is wild.
The architecture of childhood conditioning casts a shadow that covers decades. For a parent to recognize their own hand in drawing those blueprints and to take ownership of the isolation they engineered well, that is a level of emotional maturity we rarely see.
Very rarely.
It's a painful reckoning, but is also the prerequisite for any genuine change.
And that's what elevates this essay from a tragic confession into something incredibly inspiring.
Yes, the pivot.
Because she doesn't just throw her hands up and surrender to the silence. She decides to spend whatever years she has left doing quite literally the hardest thing imaginable. She tries to unteach 40 years of deeply entrenched habit.
At 71 years old.
At 71. She sets a goal for herself, and she notes that the goal is so small it actually embarrasses her.
What's the goal?
She just wants to be on the short list of people her kids ring just to pass 20 minutes. She wants to be the person you call with no news whatsoever.
That's beautiful.
So she starts attempting these clumsy corrections. She starts calling them for no reason. She'll call and say, I was thinking about you. Tell me something boring about your day.
Tell me something boring about your day.
Yeah.
On the surface, it sounds like a joke, but psychologically, it is a profound intervention.
Yeah.
She is explicitly signaling a change in the terms of service of their relationship. She's actively telling them that the old currency is no longer required.
We're off the gold standard of achievement.
Exactly. But, of course, the friction of this change is immense. The brain relies on pattern recognition to navigate relationships.
Right.
When she calls, her children's brains immediately try to pattern match based on 40 years of data. Mom is calling, therefore there must be a metric to discuss, a problem to solve, an achievement to log, or a task to manage.
They're bracing for the evaluation.
Yes, and when there isn't one, when she just asks about something boring, it confuses them. She notes that the first few times she did this, she could actually hear them waiting on the other end of the line for the real reason she called.
I can't even imagine how awkward those first few phone calls must have been. It's like trying to learn a completely new language natively at age 71 while simultaneously trying to teach that exact same language to someone who thinks they already know how to speak to you fluently.
It's an unlearning process for both sides.
Right. You've spent your entire life operating under the philosophy of never be boring, never settle, always improve. And now you are begging, please give me your boredom.
Give me the ordinary.
Yes. And she talks about the immense physical effort it takes to suppress her old instincts. When her daughter mentions having a rough week, the mother has to physically force herself to just listen.
which goes against everything she's ever done.
She has to suppress every instinct she has to leap straight into problem-solving mode, into managing the crisis, into telling her what she ought to do about it.
The manager reflex.
Exactly. When they bring up a TV show they are hooked on or a neighbor they are worried about, she forces herself to stay there in the conversation, to treat it as worthy of her time. Because, as she finally realizes, it is. It always was.
What she is doing here is an act of extreme vulnerability. For decades, her primary identity in their lives was the manager.
The project manager of their lives.
Exactly. She managed their success, she optimized their performance, she solved their inefficiencies. When her daughter says, "I had a rough week," the manager's instinct is to say, okay, let's look at the variables, let's identify the bottleneck, let's fix the workflow.
Let's optimize this bad week.
Right. By biting her tongue, by stopping herself from leaping to solutions, she is actively dismantling her own authority. She is resigning as their manager and applying for the role of their companion.
That feels like a massive identity crisis for a parent. I mean, if you aren't managing them, if you aren't the architect of their success, who are you to them?
It is a terrifying demotion for a parent who has derived their entire sense of worth from their children's achievements. She has to step down from the pedestal of the all-knowing guide and stand beside them as an equal who just wants to listen.
Which takes incredible humility.
It does, and the cost of that transition is enduring their suspicion.
Oh, because they don't trust the change yet.
Exactly. She has to sit in the awkward silences on those phone calls while they try to figure out what the trap is. They're waiting for the critique.
They're waiting for her to ask about the final turn.
Yes. Enduring that discomfort, allowing them to be confused by her new behavior, is the necessary price of rewriting a family dynamic. She has to prove over and over again that it is safe to be ordinary around her before they will trust her with their mundane thoughts.
And she admits it is incredibly slow going. You can't unteach 40 years of conditioning in a few weeks of awkward phone call.
No, the neural pathways are just too deep.
She says they still frequently slide back into the old report card rhythm out of sheer habit. They will default to listing their accomplishments when there's a lull in the conversation.
It's their safety blanket.
Right. But then after all of this clumsy, awkward, intentional effort, she gets the payoff.
The breakthrough moment.
Yes, it all crystallizes into a single moment that brings this entire deep dive full circle. She tells us about a phone call she received last week. Her son called her on a Wednesday. He had absolutely no news.
Just a plain Wednesday.
A plain Wednesday. He called just to talk about a sandwich he had eaten that he couldn't stop thinking about.
A sandwich?
A sandwich. And they stayed on the phone and they talked about the sandwich and the ingredients and where he bought it for 15 minutes.
That is just incredible.
She writes, "Nothing was accomplished. I've held on to very few things from this entire life as tightly as I am holding on to that call."
He is an incredibly moving image, and the symbolism of the sandwich is profound.
Why does the sandwich matter so much?
Because a sandwich is the ultimate mundane object. It requires no effort to achieve. It requires no discipline. It is not a milestone.
It's not a Berkeley degree.
No, it just is. It is a purely experiential, ordinary facet of daily life. By bringing her the sandwich, by offering up this completely trivial piece of information, her son is offering her a piece of his unedited, unoptimized self.
He's offering her himself, not his resume.
Exactly. The sandwich is proof of concept. It is proof that her intervention is working.
The poetic irony of it is staggering. We establish at the very beginning that her basement is full of competitive swimming medals. She has a wall decorated with a UC Berkeley degree and National Latin Honor Society certificates.
All the trophies.
She has a daughter who is a partner at a prestigious law firm. But the absolute pinnacle, the defining joy of this mother's life at 71 years old, is a 15-minute conversation about bread and deli meat.
Because the medals were about her expectations. The Berkeley degree was about the standards, she said. The sandwich is about unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
It proves that her son finally felt safe enough to offer her something perfectly ordinary, trusting, perhaps for the first time in his life, that she would not demand a win.
He tested the new waters.
He did? He extended a tentative bridge into the mundane, and because she had been practicing so diligently, she was able to meet him on that bridge.
She didn't ruin it.
No, she didn't ask how many calories were in the sandwich. She didn't ask if he could have made it more efficiently at home to save money. She didn't offer a structural critique of the meal.
She didn't optimize the sandwich.
She just enjoyed the shared experience of his day.
She just enjoyed it. And that brings us to the core of why this matters so much for all of us. We've journeyed from the well-intentioned trap of demanding excellence through the accidental creation of a highly transactional family dynamic.
All the way to the courageous, humbling work of reclaiming the beauty of ordinary life at the 11th hour.
Exactly. This isn't just a story about a 71-year-old mother analyzing her parenting. This is a mirror for every single one of us, right now, in whatever stage of life we are in.
We all do this to some degree.
We do. So what currency are you currently demanding from the people around you? Think about your partner, your kids, your friends, your team at work.
Are you demanding achievement?
Right. When they come to you with a plain Tuesday, a minor complaint, a boring observation, a random thought about a sandwich, how do you react?
Do you light up? Do you engage?
Or do you check out, glaze over, and wait for them to bring you the resume? Are you inadvertently teaching the people you love that they are only worth your full attention when they are performing for you?
It is a vital reflection. And I think we need to push it even one layer deeper.
Okay, where to?
If we look outward at how we treat others, we must also look inward at the metrics we use to judge our own worth. How do we treat ourselves based on the conditioning we receive from our own primary caregivers or from society at large?
Oh, that's a whole other level.
So I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to ponder on your own after we sign off.
Let's hear it.
Look at your own life. Think about the specific accomplishments you are currently striving for, the promotion you are grinding for, the fitness goal you are obsessing over, the financial milestone you are sacrificing sleep to reach.
The things keeping you up at night.
Right. If you could somehow magically remove the deep-seated, entirely subconscious need to impress the people who originally taught you to value those achievements, would you still be chasing them? Or would you finally give yourself permission to step off the track, sit down, and just enjoy the sandwich?
From the roar of the Formula One engine down to the quiet comfort of a Sunday drive, it is never too late to change the language you speak with the people you love. Keep questioning the algorithms of your own attention, and we will catch you next time on The Deep Dive.